we've got 40 days. In the June psychic forecast, I'll explain why, what that means, and why new troubles for Trump could lead to a dismissal over the summer, as well as which world leaders are likely to step down. This month is going to be a make or break month for much of the world. So, in the June 2025 psychic forecast, let's go over some of the predictions, what we could do to maybe change some of the less favorable outcomes, and how to prepare. This is not about fear or doom and gloom. This is about empowerment. So I've got everything written in my notes for you so that I can do this quickly and succinctly. So firstly, July 7th is a date to maybe mark in your calendar to keep in mind. That's roughly, if not exactly, 40 days from when I'm filming this video, by the way. Numerology and astrology suggests a generational shift is going to begin right around that day, specifically as Uranus enters into the sign of Gemini, completing a four outer planet harmonic aspecting or connections that we've never seen before. So this is really huge. This is the Earth changes. This is coming into the new Earth energy. This and other factors starting around July show that the tower of a society that we once knew built on the lower vibrations, the foundations, the unstable foundation of greed, power over others and such, and leading to more of a compassionate rulership and connection around the world moving forward. Drinking lots of water these days. So anyway, astrophysicists, by the way, have discovered that planetary movement actually has an effect on the solar wind and space weather. So there's actually some science that's validating that astrology and numerology, what the ancients have known all along, are accurate measures of energies and frequencies that drive movement in our society and the planet Earth. So this makes June basically extremely important. So here's the predictions. Keep in mind the timelines are fluid, and through things like awareness, through collective prayers and stuff like that, we can alter the timelines to more favorable outcomes. So be aware of that. It's not doom and gloom. So we will see mass global awakening starting this month and coming into the summer, mass spiritual awakening, I want to say. So there's definitely a rise in the frequencies, and there's a lot of shifts that are happening. And as the frequencies increase and more people awaken, it has an effect on the collective consciousness, and it starts to create the cascading fall of the old and unsustainable and the birth of the new, basically. So I see something in the order of a 30-day ceasefire. That was the number they came up in Russia and Ukraine while they hash out some treaties or whatever to end the war, basically. It could be 40 days, it could be 90 days if these timelines hold up. So if the prediction verifies, it will come on the heels of a terrible attack that Russia leveled on the Ukraine, where Trump denounced Putin for the attack. So if this were to happen, he would be hailed as a hero. So there's always that question if things are planned or orchestrated in advance to create a certain impression amongst the public. I'll let you decide that. You're intelligent, but moving right along, I see more tariffs. More issues with the tariffs, new ones, old ones, changes, world trade and the economy being affected, basically. I don't think it's going to ruin things, by the way. Tariffs are often used as leverage, as we've seen in the past, that they can be bluffs also. Like when the 145% tariff against China was proposed, it was going to be initiated, and people were really upset about it. I came on and told you guys, I'm seeing 40%. It's going to change. And what happened, it got reduced to 30% actually, but there's a 10% tariff going the other way that China was imposing on the U.S. So that's where the 40 came in. So June in numerology is a number 6 month, which promotes healing and brings more focus to domestic issues. That could be in our lives as well as the world around us. So what that means in my country, which is the USA, that it'll draw further scrutiny to things like like social services that are threatened to be cut or stuff like that, as well as things like homeland security. So expect the Doge Acts, the big beautiful bill, and plan cuts to come under heavy scrutiny this month. And it will get modified before it passes, probably in July, but it won't be the same. So it'll be okay. I mean, it may not be ideal for certain things, and you know, timelines are very fluid. It may not pass. It may have to be redone. But anyway, so I continue to see dramatic upticks in things like earthquakes, volcanoes. We know geologically we're entering into a peak of instability on the planet, and with more of solar activity, that helps to precipitate movement in the Earth, which helps to further bring on things like volcanoes and earthquakes. Everywhere's vulnerable, so keep an eye on that. Tsunamis, crazy weather, floods, fires. All these things can be influenced by what's going on with the sun, and the sun reflects what's going on in the spiritual sun and the frequencies at large. So, long story short, watch the New Madrid fault. I did a special video on that. That's the fault that runs along the Mississippi. That there's been a lot of movement there. I don't think that'll happen in June, but we need to keep an eye on it. Also, the Cascadia fault off of Oregon and Washington, that could produce a very large tsunami that could impact the entire Pacific Basin, the west coast of the U.S. and stuff like that. So keep an eye on that, and be prepared to act if necessary. Also, Mount St. Helena area, Yellowstone, all vulnerable to volcanoes. I saw a big volcano on an island in a vision recently. And then Italy and Japan were two countries that came up being highlighted. And of course, Kilauea is erupting, a mass eruption, but that's an active volcano anyway. But also more Canadian fires. So getting back to that point, lot of activity. A place like Indonesia, all over the world, more earthquakes, stronger earthquakes, more natural events. Water was highlighted, so floods, tsunamis. That's on the table for June and into the summer. So again, have a plan, be prepared. The Earth's changing. It's life. It's not doom and gloom. Also, more Canadian fires are being shown, global fires in record numbers. Spirit showed me a lot of black smoke and fires around the southern border of Russia or around northern China. So see if that's symbolic, if there actually is a big fire. I think if there is, it's going to be set, man-made, not natural. I think some of the Canadian fires, could be man-made. And, LA's got to watch out again, unfortunately. Long story short, big upticks in things like fires and floods around the world and other natural events. Possible nuclear issue was shown in Eastern Europe or in that southern Russia area. Hopefully not, but keep an eye on that also. New pacts and alignments formed on further dividing the world, new aggression. So that's going more into global conflicts. So we're seeing, like the U.S. may, forge more alliances with Middle Eastern countries and other countries, and countries like China and other countries may do the same. So we see more divide leading to that possible World War III scenario. I have faith in humanity that we're going to grow up before we go into that full on, but there are prophecies that would contradict my view. So it's something to keep an eye on, basically. Water wars could also break out. In general, this is a time to prepare. Dramatic events are more likely between July 7th and early August, but can happen anytime. So it's really a time to prepare now. And crazy weather globally that can include snow in northern New England on the mountaintops in the northern Rockies, bouts of unsettled, chilly weather in the upper tier of the U.S. And the Northeast. But the general rule for the globe is hot. Heat waves and issues around heat. A lot of fires, all over. Lots of fires, lots of floods. It's the earth change. It's part of the prophecies anyway. I was also seeing a large oil spills, hopefully not, and the possible pipeline attack, so hopefully not again. Could see a major cyber attack, specifically against financial institutions or governments, but keep an eye on that. That could lead to power outages also, and that's a big theme. Increased power outages, like the one that I'd forecast, the large regional one that happened that I forecast days before the first one in Spain and Portugal. There have been others. Some of them may be planned for leverage, some of them may be due to natural things or solar activity. So large regional blackouts continue. Airplanes grounded, more air issues like down planes coming. Some of you know that I predicted a bridge incident in New York City. That was several months before it happened, actually. And as it turns out, it wasn't as bad as what could have been, but a couple people did die and there was damage. I think it was the Brooklyn Bridge. I keep seeing something else around the Ohio Valley, over the Ohio River, the Mississippi, the West Coast. So there could be more bridge issues, I want to say. Watch out around summer solstice for a major solar event. That could lead to disruption and power outage. That could be a flare followed by a coronal mass ejection. Some major stuff. Economy, hopeful but still volatile. I'll keep that general. I've got more information in a longer video that I'll share near the end for you. Major exposure to scandals, cover-ups. More even in the summer, but we see a lot of that in June coming up also. Mostly connected to governments, corporations, international spending, government spending, but news on things like human trafficking, medical misinformation, exaggeration on effects of virus, vaccination misrepresentation, and things like that are likely to come more to the table. More is likely to come out. Big month for medical and technological advances, and science and medicine are also highlighted in the month of June. Antarctica was also highlighted. I'm not 100% sure why, but it could be things that are discovered underground, like ancient civilizations that may have existed before Antarctica froze, basically. We're going back tens of thousands of years, if not longer, with that. And more discoveries of ancient civilizations that can rewrite the history books, like the one that I predicted happening in the Southwest that recently came out in the news, for example. Big month for sky anomalies, as well as discoveries of UFOs. So I think there's going to be a big uptick of UFO sightings, some real, some government, probably. More people connecting to extraterrestrial beings, star beings, maybe physically even, but a lot of it's telepathic. Also, outer planet harmonics that I described earlier and other things will precipitate mass global spiritual awakening. So we'll see signs of that. I mentioned that earlier. Seeing buildings, the building of the Chinese army and Japanese army, as well as other ones. That could be the Koreas also. Mass arrests, mass demonstrations I was seeing also. Canada, the European Union, and others adopt a change to the tariffs, but also anywhere around the world, but Eastern Europe, around the U.S. Southern border, a big hotspot. There could be things like National Guards called in, riots, demonstrations going out of control, that increasing during the month of June, civil unrest, Canada adapting, the Canadian people working together to fend off challenges by their own administration, as well as the U.S. and others. And we could see some civil unrest and civil war-like activity with several U.S. states moving to secede to Canada in a reversal of the idea of making Canada a sovereign state. Now, the day that I'm filming this, I'm well aware that that's come on the news already, but the predictions were made prior to that, to be clear about that. And Trump, what about Donald Trump? Never a dull moment, right? Whether you love him or hate him, a lot's being exposed. And again, it could be that he's here to expose the darkness, or he embodies the darkness and the corruption, and that's how it gets exposed. But either way, I see a spiritual side to this, so hang in there, even if you're really not on board with Trump and are really worried about what's coming. There's a bigger picture. He'll come and go, and I think at the end of the day, things are going to improve vastly, in the years that follow. So hang in there. So with bipartisan opposition, including fallout with Musk that I predicted about 2 to 3 months ago, by the way, it could push Trump to the brink of impeachment or dismissal. Impeachment's not a big deal. He got impeached twice already. It would take a 2/3, I think, Senate majority to actually to remove him from office. But I think there's other ways. Also, health issues. It's a sixth universal month. Health comes up, with Putin, other world leaders. But in the case of Donald Trump, I do pick up, and I have all along, some pretty significant health issues despite his clean bill of health. So we may see that coming up, or that becoming an issue. And an assassination attempt, unfortunately, still on the table. It may never pan out. I hope it doesn't. But the other two I had predicted, and it wound out that he wasn't killed or anything. So that's the good news. But we may, what I was seeing was more like an explosion or something like that. And I feel more in the summer months, but watch out for that. But the long and the short of it is, there's several reasons why there could be some thing that challenges the Trump presidency moving forward. And also, I believe that two world leaders will step down, if not in June, soon after, during the summer. Um, Keep an eye on Starmer. One of the British prime ministers. He's high on the list. Putin, Zelensky, of course, Trump, others on the table, and so forth and so on. And there's more. There is a lot more. So in this shorter video, I'm really just scratching the surface. So we have more predictions that I didn't mention here, more elaborations on predictions that I did. If you want to deep dive into the complete June 2025 psychic forecast, it's right over here. Hang in there. We're going to get through this. Stay in your heart, stay in your power, keep the prayers, raise the vibrations, and we're going to get through this, and we're going to be better than ever. Namaste.